give it another minute, and then we'll start.
If I had my phone on, I'd tell you exact time.
I know. We had a good meeting with the provost today.
Okay, good, good.
That's where we came from. Ray and I came from.
Good. Today.
Okay.
Covering for the boss.
I think we're just 1 minute shy, but I'm just going to go ahead and start. What do you think? I will now call this meeting to order, and I'm going to take a good afternoon. Today is our special meeting work session, November 7th. Today is Election Day, and my point of privilege is that if anyone out there has not gone to vote and isn't speaking within the next half hour, you have a half an hour to run to the polls. You can go as close as the Munson Center or the Brannigan Library. Go. Just go and come back. Okay? Yes. Huh?
3 hours.
3 hours.
To 7 p.m.
Yes, but hopefully we'll finish early. But if we don't, go and vote in between. That's just if we want others to vote for our bond election, we also need to be present and be good citizens and vote for the city council and municipal judge. I don't know if there's anything else on the ballot. Okay. Mr. Jaramillo, will you take roll?
Yes, Madam President. President Flores?
Here.
Vice President Frank?
Almost here.
Here.
Mr. Castro?
Here.
Ms. Dahlman?
Here.
And I'm here. Madam President, we have a quorum.
Very good. And I don't see a student on the days today, so I'm not sure if anyone's coming. But if we do, we will welcome them when they show up. I would like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have 2 first and 1 second. No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that passes. So we go on to the superintendent's report. Who is missing today?
All righty. Yes, who is missing in Washington, D.C., but said he will be, he's here in spirit with us. So good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure to sit in for Dr. Ewing, who is in Washington, D.C., receiving our Blue Ribbon School Award for Arrowhead Early College High School. So we're super excited about that and really proud of Arrowhead. I do have one announcement. I'd like to introduce Ed Ellison and welcome Ed to our executive committee. Ed will be serving as our interim chief financial officer as we sort through and search and complete that search and hire a new one. So Ed, welcome to our team. We're really excited to have you.
Great.
And Madam, that's all of the announcements I have.
And I don't think, other than what I already said, I don't have any other announcements. So let's move on to NEA report. Do we have a report today? And I saw Irma Sisek. She's here. Miss Valdespino is here.
Madam President, members of the board, Deputy Superintendent Hawkes, good afternoon. I would just like to thank Dr. Ewing for giving the 12-month veterans the day off on Friday in commemoration of Veterans Day on Saturday to recognize and thank them for their service. That is very much appreciated. I do hope the 12-month employees take advantage of their day off, and I will be thanking Dr. Ewing when he returns, but I just wanted to thank him in public, even though he's not here. So that's all I have to say. And again, thank you very much for recognizing their service to their country and all what they have done for our nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Valdespino. Mr. Hawkes.
Alrighty, at this time it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Fred Montavlo. He's one of our amazing principals at Picacho Middle School. Me and Fred go way back, and have worked together, and I did teach at Picacho Middle School as well, so it's has a special place in my heart. But a couple weeks ago, Mr. Montalvo and his team came and did a presentation for the executive cabinet, and he had some students that wrote some amazing essays that were very heartfelt and just top of the line. And so Mr. Montalvo today is going to introduce those students and share a little bit of information with us.
So, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Hawkes, that is true. We had a whole presentation, and we, as you know, every school is presenting to Dr. Ewing and his executive cabinet. And as we highlighted what Picacho has to offer, I made sure that we brought some students with us to show what our school is truly about. So we spoke a little bit as administrators, but we're really here for kids. And so I brought a group of kids, 3 students, and Dr. Ewing was so impressed with what they had to say, he wanted them to present to you all so you could hear what our school's all about. And I think hearing it from the kids is really the best way to do it. So I'm going to introduce all 3 of them, and then they'll come up one at a time, and they'll read what they have to say about Picacho. And I will tell you, they did this on their own. I met with them one day, and I said, yeah, I have a homework assignment for you. I told them why. And I said, this is what I want you to do. Tell me about the school. Tell me what's working for you. And I told one young lady who's part of our AVID program, I want you to write about AVID and what AVID has done for you. And that's all the directions I gave them. So what you're going to hear is all their own writing, all their own doing. They weren't prompted. They weren't shown what to write or told what to do. It's all on their own, and they'll attest to that. So our first speaker is, and I'm going to announce all 3 of them, and then they can come up one at a time. The first speaker is Jessie Joy Aragon. Our second one will be Kelly May Hart, and our third speaker will be Mr. Jordan Monsivais. Okay, so Kelly, you want to go ahead and start? Oh, I'm sorry, Jessie.
Good afternoon, Madam President, Mr. Hawkes, and members of the board. My name is Jessie Joy Aragon. This is my 2nd year attending Picacho Middle School. I have attended many different schools throughout my lifetime. I have been homeschooled, I've done online school, and public school. For my 6th grade year, I did online school, and when it was time for my 7th grade year, I decided I wanted to attend public school again. When I went to enroll, immediately I was able to join sports and activities that the school provided. I felt very included, and it was a very welcoming environment. Picacho Middle School provides both a fun and safe environment. When you walk into the doors, you feel welcomed, and you can tell all the staff and students take pride in their school. Picacho has excellent staff and students. I've had some of the best experiences with teachers these past 2 school years. They are very interactive and motivational. You can absolutely 100% tell that every single staff member takes a personal interest in each and every student. Not only does Picacho provide excellent education, which of course is a #1 priority, they also provide amazing extracurricular programs that help students take pride in their school, and at the same time, doing an activity they take pride in. I am a student that strives for perfection and tries extremely hard in every class. I believe that there is absolutely no room for imperfection. Like I have said previously, I have attended many schools, but what I failed to mention was none of the schools have challenged me. Well, I can't say the same about Picacho. It amazes me because the brilliance and amazing work ethic a majority of the students that attend this school have. This is a very good thing because Picacho staff has made an effort to create classes for students much like myself. And now I have the amazing opportunity, as well as many other students, to take classes for high school credits, which is a huge advantage. So I will be leaving Picacho with 2 high school credits, as well as many other students with possibly even more. This is a great opportunity for success. I feel privileged to attend such an amazing school that provides excellent education, extracurricular events, and a safe environment. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jessie.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, Mr. Hawkes, and members of the board. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and allowing me to be here. My name is Kelly May Hart, and I attend Picacho Middle School, and this is my 8th grade year. I am in a program called AVID. AVID is an acronym for Advancement via Individual Determination. This elective is a college preparation class. During this period, we research about colleges, careers. We also take educational and informational field trips. When not doing TRFs, we do Socratic seminars and learn different skills like studying, organization, public speaking, presentation, introduction, goal-setting skills, and etc. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do tutorial request forms. The night before, we fill out a paper about a problem of any subject that you are struggling or challenged with. Our teacher separates us into different groups about different subjects. We alternate between presenting our papers. The whole point of this is for us to communicate and help each other find a solution to our problem. Then we go over the process, making sure we understand clearly. I have been taking this class since my 7th grade year. Personally, I like this class because I feel it keeps me organized, engaged, and helps me prepare for college. I feel it pushes me to be a leader, a better version of myself, and overall just a better student. I appreciate this class, and it's very helpful and fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Good afternoon, Madam President, Mr. Hawkes, and members of the board. My name is Jordan Monsivais, and I have attended Picacho all 3 years of my middle school tenure. Every year, I felt great leaving the school, wanting to come back. I love attending Picacho Middle School. The administration is hands down the best in the city. They always make sure everything is all right. They aren't just principals, they are our friends. But if we are getting out of hand, they put their foot down to let us know to settle down and make sure everything goes accordingly. The teaching staff also is the best. When they teach, they don't strive to get the lesson plan done. They strive to make sure we leave their class understanding the curriculum. The students at Picacho, even the ones we see as an unfamiliar face, are still a helping hand when needed. There's not one student unwilling to help a fellow peer when they show a sign of struggle. The school offers a lot of classes to try and further our knowledge in a chosen hobby or talent. You can take many classes if you're interested in music. I currently take media. This class has helped me with being able to talk with confidence, edit software, and build team thinking skills. I'm also taking a class that I thought I would never have an interest in, which is agricultural science. After 9 weeks in this class, my opinion has changed. I am now interested in taking a step forward into the agricultural life. I also play football for Picacho. Not only do we have an outstanding team, we have an outstanding coaching staff who's not only taught us football skills, but also taught us how to deal with adversity and help guide us through ups and downs. I have enjoyed every moment being able to play as a Picacho Scorpion. These coaches also secure the fact of our safety and teach us how to work with teammates we may not get along with. Picacho Middle School has also been home to my siblings. My older brother, who now works as a dispatcher for the city fire, police, and AMR, and my older sister, who currently attends Las Cruces High School and plays softball and maintains a 4.0 grade point average. Picacho's goal is not to give us 3 years of schooling, but to set us up for future success. I would also like to mention that Picacho offers classes to get early high school credits. I will be leaving Picacho with 2 high school credits, one for math and one for language arts. With the education, bonds, and skills I have secured at Picacho Middle School, I feel prepared to move on to high school. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, Madam President, members of the board, Hawkes, thank you for allowing us and my students to speak today. We appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Do you have any teachers here as well?
I do have some teachers here. We just got out of school, so some of them had a hard time getting here on time. But Picacho staff, if you want to stand up. I also have a parent here who presented that day with us in front of Dr. Ewing, and she's also doing her internship with me, Ms. Merrick.
Great.
So we try to get as much staff as we could here as quickly as we could, but we don't get out of school till 3:45
Right, no.
typically. Yes.
Your students are very eloquent, and no one sells a school the way students do. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
That's very inspiring.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Great way to start off our meeting.
Okay, so then we will now move on to Goodwill Industries, and we have invited Mr. Adam Amador, who is also one of our own. You are at Zia Middle School, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. Senora Flores, members of the board, Mr. Hawkes, thank you for having us tonight. Senora Flores, if possible, I would like to yield my time to the CEO of Goodwill, Ms. Melinda Jordan.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I want to talk to you a little bit about our Employee Development Services program. It's called the EDS program. It is located in El Paso currently, and we're hoping we would be just overwhelmed if we would be able to offer the same services here in El Paso. Am I controlling the mouse here?
I think so.
I'm not a technical person. So I know that's a little small, but I just want to give some highlights about the EDS program. It's currently located in El Paso at the Riverside High School. We've been operating this program since 2010. We have multiple students that have gone through this program. It's by choice, so they get to choose which program they go through. We have transitional students that are near graduation. Those are juniors and seniors. And this program is offered to those students that have physical disabilities or cognitive disabilities. We bring them into the program, and by their choice, again, with their guardian and or parents' permission, and they are exposed to a retail environment. So we teach these students how to build a store, and it's a retail store that is open to the public from start to finish. They learn all types of functional skills as well as soft skills during this program. And it's 120 hours of classroom instruction and then hands-on experience actually running the retail stores and interacting with customers on a day-to-day basis. Upon completion, they receive a certificate of completion in retail, and they participate in a graduation ceremony that Goodwill sponsors in partnership with the school district, and parents and everyone's invited, so it's a very nice event. This is the storefront at Riverside High School. We used to be in a portable. When we started this program, it was only 550 square feet of portable space. We're now in 1,800 square feet. This is what the school district offers. Everything else is Goodwill. So we offer the job coach, we offer the manager, we have the registers, all the merchandise that is presented. Of course, we're open to the public, so we do accept donations. And the students are learning how to use a register, so we do customer transactions on a day-to-day basis there as well. So the program objectives is that the students are going to learn skills and attitudes and work behaviors that are necessary in the world of work. It applies to retail. However, these are skills that they learn throughout their life experiences, any jobs that they encounter, or part-time work, et cetera, that they do volunteer work. You know, they're going to take those experiences with them. We use the high school transition space, and also, again, Goodwill provides all those program services and resources. We increase the students' awareness of post-transitional programs and services. We offer an agency night, so we bring the parents, the guardians, and the students, where they can learn about Social Security, how to fill out a W-4, how to fill out a W-2, what does that mean? So it's all of these life skills that they are gaining at their level, again, of understanding to make them fulfill their life experiences and move on from high school. We maximize student satisfaction with the program by creating what we call an individual service plan for each individual student that goes to that program, because everyone is different. They all come to us with a different disability, some with multiple disabilities. So we take that student, coupled with their parent and guardian, and we develop an individual service plan for them. What do they need to learn, and how do they best learn the skills that we're going to be teaching them about retail? They do this through a new higher orientation or new student orientation. And so some of the program retail functional skills that they learn is customer service training. How to treat customers with dignity, respect, good customer service. What does that mean? Telephone etiquette, workplace safety applies to every workplace environment. Merchandising, how do we display our wares or our textiles? Production skills, how do they sort? How do they price? What does good value mean in a Goodwill retail environment? They operate the cash register, and believe me, that is a big experience for these students because they're afraid of a computer, or, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to count money back. That money handling is a scary thing for them as well. But believe me, where they start the program and where they end is a tremendous difference. This is just a picture of one of our participants at work doing some sorting there and pulling some of the merchandise that has been on the store floor for some time. Another participant at work that's preparing the shelves for merchandising of our wares, plates, cups, etc. Again, they also learn soft skills training to include problem solving and conflict resolutions with customers, believe it or not, and with their own students and colleagues. Any kind of change management, teamwork, professional communications, workplace cultures and cultural transition attitudes. What does it mean to be in school and then transition to the world of work? Because it's different. How to promote self-advocacy. They build self-confidence. They're able to deal with things on a day-to-day basis that maybe they weren't at the beginning of the program. And then most importantly, hygiene, grooming, and appropriate workplace dress, which is also a very new concept. How do I dress for success? How do I prepare to go to an interview that I'm going to prepare to go get a job? It may not be with Goodwill. It may be with, Kohl's or Macy's or any Walgreens, CVS. So, and we have students that have actually transitioned to those. This is a picture of the graduation ceremony. We offer that at the end of the program. All board is invited. Board of Trustees is invited, our board is invited, parents, guardians, and future students that are interested in participating in the program also get to enjoy in the celebratory graduation ceremonies. One of our keynote speakers is a prior graduate of the program. This young lady is Stephanie Wyndham. She was a graduate 2 years ago from the program, cognitive disabilities. And this young lady is part of Goodwill. She's been with our organization. What Goodwill does with graduates is we will hire 2 people, 2 of the individuals that complete the program into our organization if they choose. And I'm very proud to say we have a 100% retention rate. They're the best employees that you can imagine. Very, very well prepared and received by the public. It just warms my heart. So. This is again another picture. Board members and trustees are invited to the graduation ceremony. They're in the reception line. There we have Mr. Adam Amador, who's part of our board of directors, and next to him is Dr. Chuck Harry, who is our board chair. So we have full support, and then we have Dr. Ortero and a couple of board of trustees that attended the graduation in May or June this last year. Again, we also, and I brought copies of those for you, we are CARF accredited, which is, pardon me, it's an accreditation program that Goodwill Industries of El Paso and Southern New Mexico is required, a part of our membership standards. So it's very much like an audit. This past October, beginning of October, we had a 3-day audit, and they look at this program. This is the program that we have our accreditation under. CARF is Community Accreditation Rehabilitative Facility, and that's our Riverside High School program. We have 9 participants. We had 9 participants in the fall and 3 in the spring for a total of 12 that graduated this year, one of our largest classes, and currently we have 14 graduates of this program, again with a 100% retention rate at our organization. And you all have copies of the outcome measurement report that we produced. One more, I think one more. This is the graduating class from 2017 in June. A couple of the students weren't able to be there. Very excited. One more. Another fun time with the graduates there, celebrating their successes. And that's it. Actually, after the program is over, we offer post-program services. And this is really, we offer that to everyone, but we do at our Job Link centers, and we have one here on Valley Drive, 1280 South Valley Drive. It is a Job Link center that has 12 computers in it and a full-time attendant and a part-time attendant that anyone can go into, where it's open to the public, and we offer these students as well opportunities to go in and build a resume, prepare for an interview. We do mock interviews with them. We do some advocacy for them. So we have job placement specialists that actually reach out into the community to other organizations and ask if we can place students in El Paso and hopefully here in New Mexico, but other people that are looking for a job, not just students, at our Job Link Center. And again, printing of resumes or development of resumes are all free of charge. And we do all of these programs and services because that's our mission, to provide training, skills, and services to people with barriers to employment. So we're really hopeful that Las Cruces, we would love to be part of the program at the school districts here, and we look forward to that day that actually comes to fruition. Any questions for me?
Board members, do we have any questions or comments for Ms. Jordan? Anyone? Mr. Castro?
What is your source of funding?
Well, we are a nonprofit organization, so our funding for our mission services comes from our retail stores. And we have a retail store here on North Main, which helps, and we have 9 stores total. So the funds that we use, about 85 cents of every dollar that we make goes right back into the communities that we serve.
Madam President.
Mr. Jaramillo?
I had the privilege of talking to Mr. Amador and got a lot of backstory to this this program, which I was excited about to hear. But what are the logistics, real logistics, going from this presentation to actually getting this implemented? What does it take? Funding, space, policy? I mean, what would it take to go from here to something running in, and the time frame?
Well, we are prepared to open at any time. In fact, I will tell you, we are opening in January of 2018 a second location with the Isleta Independent School District in El Paso. So currently it's at Riverside High School. We're opening at the Parkland High School in El Paso. So logistically, it's relatively easy. The biggest challenge is the space that we would be able to operate under. Everything else, pretty much Goodwill handles. So from the merchandising, the supplies, et cetera, we have the program ready, set to go. We just need the approval and the support of the school district that we'll be working in. Did I answer your question, sir?
Yeah, I believe so. And Madam President, would there be logistics as far as, I know because they offer credits and things like that, so there has to be something on our end, because Las Cruces Public Schools, I mean, they may, in El Paso, they may have something that's already in place. Here, it's not going to be in place yet, right?
Correct.
So what would that take because that's going to take something, because just providing space and merchandise in there is not going to be it. There has to be something else, and I would like to know what that else would be.
Mr. Hawkins?
So, Madam President, Mr. Jaramillo, so I think we would start with the conversation with our instruction department and kind of have a discussion with Ms. Jordan, Mr. Amador, and their team, and kind of look at how that fits in, and maybe look at kind of what's already in place, and then maybe come back and report to the board as to what we found and how that looks like laying over our New Mexico plan.
Because it's not we're not reinventing the wheel. It's already been done. So whatever, we could copy something that El Paso School District or something like that was done. I'm excited about this. I think it's a great opportunity. I think, Madam President, we sat in a meeting earlier today talking about connections and real life, working, stuff like that. And I think this is a great opportunity, something that, is it done anywhere in New Mexico?
No, sir. In fact, El Paso, Goodwill, and Southern New Mexico, we are the only one nationwide that is actually doing this program.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, congratulations
Thank
to
you.
you.
Thank you.
That's
So
very
I
exciting.
think it's
Huge
really
success
cool,
story.
and I think it'd be really cool to bring this to New Mexico. So
And I would love the opportunity to have you visit our Riverside High School program. Just let me know, and that is operational, and the students, they're used to having visitors, so we would love the opportunity to show you that program in action.
Okay.
Awesome, thank you.
Miss, yes.
Madam
Ms.
President,
Goff.
Mr. Hawkins, I just have a question. So is it just a one-semester program?
For the student, yes,
Yes.
it is.
Okay.
So we run it all year long, the
Right.
entire school year, but we divide the students up. And again, it depends on how many students we have. So sometimes we have 3, sometimes we have 10. It just depends. And then we also look, and we work with the good job coach or the school counselors on what type of disabilities we're dealing with, because some need a little more attention than others. Some are a little bit faster learners than others. And it's about the education at their level of learning and then the experience of providing them a retail environment. So some need a little more attention than others.
Right, thank you.
Mr. Frank?
So I'm just wondering, are students enrolled in other high school courses while they're doing this?
Yes, they are.
Yes, Mr. Castro?
President, I assume that you have relations with our local Goodwill Industries, so they will be part of this. Is that right? Or
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
will you be working in tandem with the local Goodwill Industries?
Yes,
here in
oh
Las
yes,
Cruces.
absolutely. The store here is part of Goodwill Industries of El Paso and Southern New Mexico. So we have one store here. We have 9 total, this counting Las Cruces store on North Main. The students are also at the end of their curriculum are taken on a shopping spree, and we take them to Goodwill, and they are able to pick out an outfit or 2 for graduation, the ceremony, and for post interviews, et cetera, that they go on. So, and that's all part of what we serving our community.
Madam President?
Well, yes, go ahead.
One more.
Mr.
I apologize,
No, it's
Madam
okay. That's why they're here, to get our questions
And I think
answered.
this question may come, it may just be out there, but what would need to happen next? Would it be board approval, superintendent approval? Our presenters are gonna leave today, and I would just like to have something in place where we either go back and look at this, something that happens. I would love to know the process on
Well,
what happens.
what will happen is, we're going to direct Mr. Hawkes to go ahead and pursue this with the instruction department, and then possibly look at possible 2018, maybe, if there's a location to be found. We have 4 high schools. I'm wondering if does it ever work in a middle school?
We have not done middle school because we're focused on students that are getting ready to transition
All right, I just had to
from high
ask that.
school, ma'am. Yes,
We
ma'am.
have our community middle school over here that I'm thinking of as well as another opportunity. So we're asking the district to pursue it.
Thank you very much.
So, Madam President, if I may, Mr. Jaramillo, so we will, we'll connect and reach out and have that conversation and then report back to the board, to the superintendent and the board, with kind of our findings and what that would look like, and give us a better idea on timeframes and
Right.
meshing it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, it was my
Any other
pleasure.
questions?
Thank you.
Well, we very much appreciate your coming, both Mr. Amador and Ms. Jordan. Thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you very
It's
much.
very amazing.
Thank you very much. My
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hawkins, did you have anything to add or say
No, ma'am.
before we move on from the superintendent's report?
I
Okay.
think we're good.
Okay, so we will move on then to instruction, and that takes us to the New Mexico Teach Plus presentation.
Madam President, Deputy Superintendent Jaquez, and members of the board, thank you for making the time and allowing Teach Plus Fellows to address our policy work. I am Joel Hutchinson, and this is my 21st year of teaching, the last 11 here in Las Cruces Public Schools. Last year, Teach Plus came to New Mexico, and 15 New Mexico teachers began policy work consisting of 3 different cohorts. The first cohort provided 11 suggestions to the state New Mexico's ESSA plan, of which 8 of those 11 recommendations were accepted and implemented into the state ESSA plan. The second provided recommendations for the teacher evaluation system, which the Public Education Department accepted some of those recommendations, and that led to the changes in teacher evaluations concerning the weight of the testing, and then also the teacher absences going from 3 to 6. And then the third cohort, which is the cohort I was a part of, we published and presented 3 recommendations to the Public Education Department for teacher mentorship programs at a statewide level. And this is the packet for that. And I sent an email on Sunday to all the board members and to the superintendent that contains this as well. But the 3 recommendations that we had, the first was that state policy should expand mentorship to teachers in their first 2 years and to struggling teachers in every district through programs like Teachers Pursuing Excellence, or TPE. The second, state and district policies should outline priorities for mentor matching, excuse me, guarantee dedicated release time and standardized stipends, and deliver ongoing professional development on adult learning to mentors. And the third recommendation we had was that state policy should establish uniform mentor qualifications, formal program standards, and reliable system evaluation measures for districts to implement. We are still proposing these recommendations to congressional members with the intent of having this policy readdressed and appropriate funding applied to teacher mentorship. State law passed in 2001 required 2 years of mentoring. However, a 2010 law clarified that only 1 year of mentoring for new teachers was required. Research tells us that the first year of teaching largely consists of survival and trying to keep your head above water. But the second year is where a quality mentorship program leads to significant improvement of student achievement, and it also is very imperative for helping teachers remain in the profession. We recommend that New Mexico policymakers and districts further consider how to better meet the needs of new and struggling teachers through mentoring. And then this past August of 2017, I was selected as an advisor for the Secretary Teachers Advisory and wish to assist and work in communicating with the district and advising with the Secretary-designate Ruskowski. I will be joining Secretary Ruskowski in St. Louis next week for a Council of Chief State School Officers panel discussion about teacher leadership opportunities here in the state of New Mexico. And then I'm also an ambassador for the New Mexico Teacher Leader Network, and we continue to work in building a larger network for communication between teachers and the New Mexico PAD. Last Thursday, after school, I traveled to TRC to assist in welcoming new teachers to the Liaison, which is an extension of the Teacher Leader Network, and we are now trying to have it so that a group of teachers represent every school building in the state of New Mexico and have access and content to members at the PED. And so that was the policy that I worked on last year. I am now a Teach Plus alumni, but our current fellows.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. And you know, you don't have to rush, I mean.
Yeah, we were told, get it done, yes.
I want you to be able to breathe in between.
Well, and in the essence of time, I have shrunk mine down a lot. My name is Kim O'Byrne. I thank you, Madam President, Board, Mr. Hawkes, for allowing us to talk to you today about a little bit about what we've done. I'm not going to tell you all the things that I've been doing prior to this. I would like to really speak to you today about what we're doing with Teach Plus New Mexico. This is my first year, obviously, in this cohort. So what we're doing is, as you know, currently there isn't a standard criteria for how professional development is composed, delivered, and evaluated for maximum adult learning. So as a cohort, my Teach Plus New Mexico group is looking at how can high-quality professional development guidelines be developed to support the needs of the state, the district, and the teacher level so that we are able to provide maximum learning. So we're in the process right now of conducting research to determine how that focal point for professional development is identified, how the evidence is used, and for what type of professional development is delivered, how it's delivered, how many hours of quality instruction do we need, and who's going to deliver that. So we're looking at that right now. We hope to derive useful, state-of-the-art professional development model that's based on sound evidence and that can be used for immediate growth. So that's what we're doing right now. And in the essence of time, we knew that we had a limited amount of time here. So I'm going to pass it on to my next cohort, and we'll try to get as much done, and we'll stand for questions at the end.
That'll work. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Hawkes. This is my first board meeting ever, so I'm very excited. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. My working group in Teach Plus, I'm also going to focus on my Teach Plus work, but my working group in Teach Plus is focusing on bettering compensation for champion educators in New Mexico. We are interested in learning the degree to which New Mexico teachers would support a change in policy to provide alternate routes to earning a level 3 licensure. As we understand, that is a pay increase, but we understand that comes with very specifics that some teachers do not have, champion educators in my eyes do not have. And we're also looking at possibly the new implementation of a level 4 pay salary. My working group, to be honest, we've changed gears rather suddenly because we want to make a direct focus. What is it, 2 to 3 or the 4? It is overall looking at different realms of how to better compensation for educators in our state. We're working on a flash poll right now so that we can gather data from the educators in themselves. Data speaks very strongly, but the voice from educators would be stronger. So we are working on that. Again, it's very intricate. Our national directors are telling us how to be very, very, very specific as to the answers we want. So that is my work, and I'm going to pass it to Ms. Susana Rios.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, other way. Buenas tardes, everybody. My name is Susana Rios, and I am here to inform you about the work that I'm doing with Teach Plus and my participation with the New Mexico Teacher Leader Network School Liaison Program with the Public Education Department. Teach Plus is helping me acquire the skills to become an agent for social justice on perspectives that are close to my heart, which is early childhood bilingual education. The goal is to increase momentum for change for student learning and teacher leadership over education policy. With the support of Teach Plus professionals, 4 other teachers in New Mexico and I are working on a project about expanding high-quality pre-K in New Mexico. This project addresses 2 main questions: who should be served and who should be teaching. I also participate with the New Mexico Teacher Leader Network School Liaison with Alicia Duran and Isaac Rivas-Sabel. This organization, championed by the New Mexico Public Education Department, promotes a direct link between the PED and schools by having teachers share the latest developments and key issues at their own sites and districts. We are still in need of several elementary schools in our district to apply for a school liaison position. The more representation we have, the better informed our colegas will be about areas of focus, with the goal to raise the quality of instruction and outcomes for students. Thank you so much for allowing us, Teach Plus Fellows, the time to present to you this afternoon. We hope to be able to provide you with updates with our policy functions, and we stand for questions.
Well, thank you, Ms. Rios. And first of all, I'd like to congratulate you on an excellent letter to the editor. True to my heart. I was very impressed with the letter. I know that our board members are going to have questions, so does anyone want to start? Or shall I jump in? Okay, first of all, I'd like to ask you, do you work with your staff at your schools? You're all from different schools. Do you bring your information back to your principal, your administrators, and your staff?
Madam President, that depends on which role we are looking at. Teach Plus is a series of cohorts that is focusing with, like the cohort that I worked with, I had a teacher that was in Gallup and 2 that were in Albuquerque. And so the 4 of us were the ones that worked on this one particular project as far as developing the teacher mentorship program. With these teacher liaisons, the Teacher Leader Network, and the STA, then yes, we do come back and we communicate with our staff, the staff members at our school, and with our administrators.
Okay, and how many teachers, I've seen several pictures, how many teachers are, there's 89 districts, how many in the state of New Mexico that are in these cohorts?
Teach Plus cohort this year has 20. Last year there were 15 of us. We were the first cohort in the state. So this year there is 20, and if, depending on funding, possibility of expanding it to a larger group.
Okay.
The Secretary Teacher's Advisor, there are 26 of us statewide that serve on
I've heard of that group, yes. 26 advisors, you call them?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And then, does the superintendent get, do you share information with the superintendent or with his administration? I'm just asking.
I have reached out to Superintendent Ewing and have been tried a couple of times to set up appointments and have not been able to do so as yet, but I will continue to pursue that.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I think that's really important to do so that we're all working together.
Yes.
I like the things that you're working on. I mean, compensation is obviously very important, but if the state's not funding us, it's very difficult to add that additional compensation. And going to a level 4 must be extremely difficult and extremely expensive. So, you know, speaking as a level 3 teacher myself, I know how hard it is to get up those levels. But board members, do we have any other questions or comments?
Well, I do.
Yes,
Madam
Ms.
President.
Dahlman.
Mr. Hawkes, you know, I read your complete report. I actually read it. got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I studied it quite a bit.
I'm glad you completed your homework, ma'am.
That's what we ask of our board members.
That's right. And so a lot of the information that I read has to do with a struggling educator. And I want you to, in your opinion, what constitutes a struggling educator?
There are a variety of different forms that can be taken into account. It can be identified by someone within the school in and of itself. So if we know that there is a new teacher or a teacher that is struggling and a principal is aware of that and would like to set someone up with a mentorship in that regard, that could be one way of doing it. Another way would be with the based off of teacher evaluations. So there is the aspect with that as if they are minimally effective. And that obviously would be working with teachers that have years of experience, because if you're a first-year teacher, you're not going to have any evaluation to go with that particular component until that second year. So we would like for it to be mandatory for all teachers first year to definitely have a mentor, and also then within that second year to continue that mentorship program with that. And then as far as getting funding or getting the aspect of having the support for teachers that are struggling, that is something that we would like to have put into policy as well. But you know, that could be, even if I am as a teacher and say that I am struggling and would like a mentor, is that something that could be an option as well? So we don't have a set policy per se for that at this point in time.
So struggling, you're saying just based on scores, on test scores?
That is the one piece of data that we have at this point in time that we can use as a baseline for the indicator for that, yes.
Okay. Okay, so then I do have a couple of questions, okay? So I want to ask any of you or yourself if you've ever taught in a school deemed low performing.
I have, yes. I taught at Pojoaque High School for the first 2 years of my teaching career. I've taught at Oñate High School, which was a lower performing school for C and D level. I have not taught in an F level school, though. I teach at Centennial now, which is an A school, so that's a different circumstance.
And did your evaluation suffer in regards to that?
No, ma'am, not at all.
Okay. Well, okay. And then, let me just give you a hypothetical scenario then. If an educator has enjoyed teaching in a high-performing school, such as Centennial, for several years and gets reassigned to a low-performing school, and low scores affect his evaluation as a minimally effective or ineffective, does that teacher then go into the mentoring program because he is no longer considered an effective teacher?
There are a couple of hypotheticals that you are talking about here. First of all, as a teacher, if I were to go to a lower performing school, I would think that I would still have the high rating of what my education program is for those particular students.
Why is that, if it's going to be based on your students' scores?
Test scores are part of it. Part of that is the principal's evaluation. At this point in time, 40% of evaluation is based off of the principals for this year now. So that is the major component. Yeah, that it was also applicable. It was retroactive for last year as well. And so then the 35% is based off of student test scores, and then the other aspects of that are based off of the teacher attendance, and then the other component of that is the level 4 or domain 4 areas, I'm sorry, not level 4, domain 4 areas of your work, which is your teacher professionalism.
Okay. And so I would like you to just kind of reiterate, just so that we all understand what it is that your program wants to handle all mentorship and all professional development here in the district?
We don't handle these programs, ma'am. We recommend policies be put into place, and those are then carried out by either through the state PED or through districts or through schools, based off of how that is implemented. Yeah, no.
I do have one thing I'd like to add to that. I do have fellow colleagues who have worked at a lower performing school. I've worked at one myself. And when they come in, they are rated at a lower rating because of test scores. So that's where I feel like the professional development needs to be top notch. If we can train teachers how to overcome some of those, because let's just be honest, some of our professional development is just being there. And it's not necessarily addressing the needs that we need in those classrooms. So if we could address some of those issues in professional development, how do you handle that problem? How do you help those students gain in that area? I think that's part of what we're looking at. So I think it's more of a larger picture, and we're working at policy. We're chipping away at policy to try to help solve some of those very issues that you're talking about.
Okay. And then it says here that on page 6, it says 88% of teachers support compensating. In fact, most of the report talked about the teachers that were being surveyed, that they were the ones that were requesting whatever initiatives you guys were taking on this particular report. But it says here that they support compensating mentors $1,000 to $3,000. Is that per teacher that you would mentor, or per year?
That is, so say I were to be a mentor, then that would be the compensation that I would receive, depending on, am I working with one-on-one for a teacher, or am I, say, working as a hybrid teacher, whereas I have at the high school level, so if we have 8 classes and say I teach 5, and then one of those is used for me to work with 2 or 3 different teachers, so then those compensations could vary. So these are recommendations for compensation, but we would not necessarily make that ultimate decision. Right now in Las Cruces Public Schools, teacher mentors are getting paid $3,500 that are in the Teachers Pursuing Excellence program. And so that's where partially that number comes from.
So if you were working with 5 teachers, mentoring 5 teachers, typically what would the salary be then?
So you would have your regular teacher salary, but then you would be compensated on top of that, the $3,000.
Per teacher?
For the mentor.
Okay.
Yes. Not for the teachers that are being mentored.
Okay. Let's see. Let me see if I got to everything.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
I do after
Okay, yeah,
Ms.
no,
Dolman.
I'm just asking so that I know.
So I feel that this program would, on paper, it seems like it would be a cure-all for the PED's latest rating of low-performing schools. And I believe that it would foster toxic and divisive environments in our school system.
Are you speaking toward the teachers that are scoring minimally effective on evaluations?
Right.
Yes. Well, that is something to take into consideration, but federal law requires us to have some form of teacher evaluation. So if, for instance, the administration changes and our current members at the PED are no longer there, as a state, we still are going to have some form of teacher evaluation.
Right.
So depending on that, if that were to completely be thrown out and changed into something else, how then do we rate and dictate what is the different levels of evaluation for teachers? So some way or another, has to be some form of evaluation system. And what we are looking at is providing mentorship for teachers, largely for new teachers, but then if struggling teachers are also in need of that, because we know that within the district, some teachers are struggling for different reasons. So maybe there are personal problems within the family or those other elements that are going on for that particular year. Could the school or could the administrator say, you know what, this was just a bad year, we don't need to necessarily mentor this particular teacher. So there are different varying circumstances for teachers when we are looking at that aspect of how they would be mentored for struggling teachers.
Right, and before New Mexico Teach, that's the name of the
Yes.
evaluation
Yes.
that we have right now, right? It's been 2.5 years that I've been out. So the principals were handling evaluations at that point.
Yes.
So I just feel like we have disrespected that part of their job. That they no longer do the observations, they no longer, I mean, they do the observations, but they have to follow a specific plan, and it actually takes a lot of time and energy and effort, much more than what they were spending before, and takes them away from other things that they should be doing.
I don't disagree with that.
Right.
But we do have a federal law that mandates And so therefore, as a state, we have
Right.
to abide by.
Our hands are tied with,
to some
that
extent, yes.
particular, yeah, but I just don't support New Mexico Teach. All right, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dahlman. Mr. Frank?
So, there's a history of mistrust between this school board and the PED.
Well, the Teach Plus is not part of the PED. The Teacher Leader Network and the STA are, so we've got a couple of different things.
We get the award for best.
Yes.
I'm misunderstanding because, I'm looking at a picture where you're with the secretary.
Yeah, he's
Yes.
right there.
So I just think maybe there's an opportunity to decrease the mistrust through increased communication between you guys and you could be the liaison between the school district and those people at the PED. And so I'm wondering what you can do to facilitate that.
I agree 100% with you. We are not any part of the PED. When I got into this, one of my reserves, I should say, is I thought it was part of the PED, and I went up there with the attitude of, they're not going to convert me, they're not going to convert me. And so when I went up there and I opened my eyes, it's actually about understanding policy and what can I do to advocate for my profession. And I am so proud to be a teacher and an educator, and I am proud of what my fellow educators do, that I feel like if I can make a difference, if my voice can do anything, I want it to be for a positive thing. And so I agree 100% with you. I think opening up lines of communication and being able to hear and really listen to what people are saying and then try to find some type of a solution that we can meet with that we can serve students better every day is a plus for the entire education system. So thank you for that, because I think we're in 100% agreement with you on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
As a representative of the STA, I would wholeheartedly love to sit down and talk with all of you and have that and work to extend that line of communication with the secretary and with the PED.
Madam President.
Yes, go ahead.
I have some just bullet points here, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to phrase this question, or if it is a question, maybe a statement, I don't know. But I say this with all due respect. And my perspective is limited by the information that I have. So please give me some more information so I could get a better perspective. But with all due respect, this seems like it's circumventing. This seems like a direct circumvent of our local school district. And because, these are your words. I wrote here, someone said, a direct link from PED to our schools. And you guys are talking about professional development. So if that was the case, that would be a direct link to the state science standards that were ridiculous recently. So this worries me, and it worries me a lot, because it seems like a direct circumventing the thing. Because if I was a leader, and I am in an aspect of in my daily job, in my work job, I couldn't circumvent. I would need to go to the person that needs to, and then they would funnel it down. Once I circumvent that, then all communication is broken. And just like a parent, I'll speak as a parent, that's what I am too, is that if dad does this, and then all of a sudden we go to mom and mom circumvents that, then guess who that person goes to, right? So tell me how this is not circumventing the system.
I would like to address a little bit before answering to that question, which probably Joel will be a better candidate for that. I think we're confusing two things. We're here to present two different organizations. This is Teach Plus. We are Teach Plus, all of us. And some of us are just with the New Mexico Teacher Leader Network, which is from the PED. It's one initiative from the PED that please allow me, that creates a direct link between whatever it is taught at the PED, any discussions or meetings about new focus of areas and new information that affects student learning, and then brings teachers to those meetings. And the purpose for just specifically, I'm speaking about the school liaison program. So these teachers take directly that information to the schools. They present at their staff meetings or their PLC times, and then they disperse the information directly. These sort of programs started it because back in the day, something happened. The information was not getting to either, teachers or parents. And of course, teachers didn't say, I didn't know that this is not supposed to be, testing and things like that. But that was the foundation, what one of many other initiatives that they're working on was founded on. And I'll pass the next question to Joe about
Yeah, yeah. I just want you to see what I'm thinking from my perspective.
I hear what you're
to
saying.
get more information to get a better perspective.
So Teach Plus is an independent organization that has no ties whatsoever to the PED.
Okay.
Right. I knew. Okay.
Okay. So that is teachers that are working on policy issues. The STA and the Teacher Leader Network are liaisons that work with the PED and help to communicate. And so I think to answer your question, there are 89 districts in the state of New Mexico. The policy used to be, when Secretary Scandera came in, is she would contact superintendents with information with the expectation that superintendents would then contact principals who would then contact teachers with that chain. Some districts do that. Some districts do that very well. Some districts don't do that at all.
But sometimes, sir, for good reason. Like, for instance, the the science thing, like I just mentioned.
Yes.
I know it's changed, but so if and I apologize for interrupting you, but I think it's important for us and the board to know is that that yes, it does do that, and when it doesn't fall through, then you got to go back up to your leadership and make sure that it follows through. Or you could do something similar to and say, you know what, if they're not going to listen to me, we're going to circumvent them and go down to the bottom.
And to answer the other part of that question is with the new ESSA law, teachers having a voice and having direct access to policymakers and decision makers is part of that law. So with No Child Left Behind, teachers were completely cut out of the system. And so with the new ESSA law that is coming into play, that is why the New Mexico PED has started some of these programs, is so that teachers have a voice and a place at the table as well. Right. So I don't know if that answers the question.
It gives me more information.
Okay.
Yes, and that's what I was asking for, was more information to better get a better perspective, because I just flat out said it, and I didn't want to disrespect it, but that's what I was feeling, and that's what the information that I had was a circumvent. So thank you, I appreciate that.
And I want to round out that conversation because policy starts at home, and we work on policy here, and so if you're working with the PED directly and you're not informing the superintendent or his administration, who is all here, this is what they work on, and us here, who we support teachers as leaders because we are teachers. We support teachers to be involved in policy because that was important to us when we were teachers. It affects us directly. We support your working on professional development and improving the New Mexico Teach. All of those things are needed, all of them, but we can't. You're breaking what possibly is happening is the chain of command is being broken. Now, I know that Ms. Scandera would have calls with the superintendents, and she would push the mute button, and that was not right. How is a superintendent supposed to say, well, excuse me, but this is not what I would like to do in my district. I have a say in what I do in my district, and my board has a say in what I do in my district. And then I know that the PED doesn't think very highly, not only of our board, but all boards of education. I've heard some very negative comments from people that have gone to the meetings and said a board is irrelevant because they don't get enough votes, they don't work hard, they don't read their literature. You just saw here an example of a person that does everything. I got on the school board because I wanted a voice. That's why I'm here. So I appreciate your efforts. And I know you're all good teachers. I know Ms. Rios, I know you're all good teachers.
One of my son's favorite teachers.
I value what you do. But you need to let the PED know. You cannot go around our leadership and do these things. You have to work with the leadership. We work with you, and it goes back and forth, up and down, so that it does get to the teachers. That's our concern.
Duly noted. Yes.
Okay.
And part of the reason we are here to present is to let you know what it is that we are working on.
And that's why we wanted you to come,
yes,
so that we could, have this conversation. But you understand, we're here for you, you're here for our students, and we all need to align our efforts.
We do all need to align our efforts. And with the proposals that we have, this is already a state law. It's just not being followed through with. And so that's why the reason that we addressed this is to try to have it as a more focused center.
Right.
So.
And so I do think you need to have that conversation with the superintendent and with his administrator.
I absolutely will.
I think that that's very important. Board members, any other questions or comments? Yes, Mr.
If I may,
Hawkins.
thank you guys for your presentation, and your action research sounds amazing that you all are doing. But just to ditto, I mean, that communication piece, so working in the leadership division in our district, we're developing programs moving forward with kind of the information that we have, trying to do some different things. I know also our HR and instruction department are creating mentorship programs, and kind of interesting, and just as a point is that, like, I'm not even aware of the stuff that's going on. Not that I know everything or have to, but I mean, if we're the ones that are developing those together, we're kind of working at, we're working in two separate silos over here, guys. And I think that, I know for our team, executive cabinet and the superintendent, that's something we absolutely want to connect. So we're aligned because we do support each other. And I know one of the things that we always say is, I mean, this is who we got. And we're all teachers at heart, and we're all in it for the right reasons, the same reasons, and it's the students and our staff. And so I'm absolutely open and excited to start connecting and communicating with you.
And we would love to have the opportunities to have those conversations.
Mr. Adamian?
Madam President, I just want to clarify my remarks, and I just want to make sure that I express myself clearly. I don't think this is all about agreeing either. I don't want to say that we have to agree. That is not what I'm saying at all. But what I want to make sure is that we're communicating. And that's an important, like I said, I've said this in board meetings since I got elected almost a year ago, but relationships are the foundation of everything. But when you break that relationship, it takes a long time to get that trust back, like Mr. Frank was alluding to earlier in his comments. And so I want to say that I hope that you don't leave with that we have to agree. That is not what I mean at all. But I really do think that form of communication should be established. And I think that it should be coming up from the top. If God forbid, I don't want to ever be Secretary of Public Education. If that was me, I would make sure that communication that you guys were making sure when you guys go back, make sure you touch base with these people, get in going over there, and then go off with that. Does that make sense?
And they have sent emails to superintendents, to principals, letting them know that we were selected for this. Well, yeah. I mean, communicating that we have been selected for these positions, and so.
But do you see how that's? I mean, I'm going to let you know that this is happening, and that's the problem I think that I have with.
I don't mean it in that sense. I mean letting them know that I was selected for the STA, making them aware in those matters.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and Ms. Dahlman, one more.
Madam President, Mr. Huckes, I just have one more comment. Going back to your report, because it's focusing on struggling teachers. Nowhere in your report, because struggling teachers seem to struggle the most in low-performing schools. Is that correct? Is that a fair statement, would you say?
I don't have the data on that at this point in time, so I don't know that I would say that it. I mean, we have struggling teachers in all schools.
Not as many as in low-performing schools, I think. But I don't have the data with me here, but I can get it for you. And so I just want to make a statement. Nowhere in the report did I read that, I feel that we're disregarding the real root of the problem, and that's regional poverty, illiteracy, lack of health services, lack of jobs, lack of universal early childhood education, and just simply an overall caring, sympathy, and compassion for our districts. So nowhere in the 20-something pages did I read this.
So we were, obviously those are indicators that come into play within the context of different districts in different areas, but we also have teachers that perform very well in these districts that have low-performing students that have the same problems.
Right, I'm not saying that all of them.
So what our goal, our intent with this particular paper is to increase and to provide more support for teachers across the board within the state. Because from our opinion, our perspective of what we have looked at and found is that teachers that are struggling don't necessarily have, for instance, my first year of teaching, they said, if you have any questions, that's the department head. Here are your keys. Here is a stapler. Good luck. I received no mentorship whatsoever my first.
I understand.
So what we're looking for is
But
having some continuity.
Now, and I think
Exactly.
that we need to look at poverty levels.
Well,
that's what we need to look at. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Yes,
I
Mr.
just want to underscore what Terry was saying. I think sometimes we offer the aspirin, and it certainly takes care of the headache or the stomach ache. But the underlying problem that we have with struggling teachers and low achievements is it has to be poverty, the biggest factor, and that's what we have to address. Poverty and diversity, of course, cultural differences, and that's the symptoms can be addressed by the cause.
And I don't disagree with you, sir. But what I would also argue is that if we can improve the quality of our teachers across the board in the state of New Mexico, that will take care of a lot of the poverty issues because we are producing a more stable and a higher level of student and potential professionals down the road.
I agree with that.
So
Totally agree.
No one is opposed to teachers becoming leaders, working on compensation, working on professional development, working on the ESSA plan, on mentorship, on all of these. These are all critical pieces of what we do, but we need to work in collaboration with each other.
Absolutely, we agree.
To that regard, if I may add just a few points, I just would like to share that as soon as I went this summer to the Teachers Summit in Albuquerque, I came back so empowered and I felt like, yes, I can do this. And the first person that I contacted, it was my superintendent. And he addressed me to Miss Tiffany. And so we made an appointment and I met with her and I dispersed every single information that I got. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Tiffany, this is amazing. They're giving us teachers the power. We can have these organizations and these groups and we can work together and blah, blah. And so I just want to make sure that that was exactly the channel of communication.
Right.
And then of course, I mean, she directed me with how do I present and all that. So I just want to make sure that it is understood that we are trying to follow,
Right.
to go with our superintendent and then bottom down.
Okay, well.
And I hope, Madam President, they would continue to give us reports.
Yes.
That this is not just a one-time thing. That I would hope that you guys would be able to come as you have more information to address the board. I would love that, so I could know a little bit more and develop a better perspective and trust. And better trust. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to do this is by trusting it, by communicating. And I would hope that you guys would be regulars here. And I welcome you for the first time, but I would love for you to be here as many times as you want. So
And the very next item is on compensation, okay? So stay around for our conversation on that, okay?
Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so this takes us on now to finance and Mr. Ellison.
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Deputy Superintendent, thank you. So we have two items this evening. The first item is you'll find in your folder a copy of a letter addressed to the Public Education Department. And this comes from the first special session of 2017 where appropriation of up to $16 per unit was given. In addition to that, the Secretary of Education was given discretionary authority over that, and we've inquired about this additional amount multiple times. And so we have consulted with legal counsel, and as a result of that, we have a letter here that we are presenting to you for discussion and approval.
Okay. And we all have that in front of us, right? So does anyone have any questions or comments? We're just asking for what was legislated to be ours at this point. So,
It's asking for consideration and using the appropriation that was granted to them.
right, right. So, any questions or comments for Mr.
No
Allison?
question?
Yes.
I just happened to, and maybe this is just for everyone, are we the only one asking for this?
No,
You happen to
we're
know if
not. And we'll be part of other districts that will be asking for this as well. And so we're not the only ones asking for it.
I'm sure there's others.
There's others.
Okay.
Right, yes. Yeah, for us, it means up to $700,000.
Yes.
Do we know how many others? Not necessarily who they are, but,
No, I don't, but it's a significant number.
okay.
I just figured there was someone.
Yeah, no, we're not alone in this, okay? Mr. Costa?
I just wonder, would be a good idea to give it to the media, to the news media, so they can understand who, and run support from the public.
I imagine it will find its way to the media.
Probably.
But I don't know, that would be a question for Dr. Ewing to address, so.
We'll ask him.
Yeah.
Is there action taken on?
Yes, we're going to go ahead and I will, if no one has any further questions, I will entertain a motion to approve the letter to Public Education Department regarding the SEG funding.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Dahlman first and Mr. Jaramillo second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
sir.
Is, Mr., I can't even,
Ruskowski?
is he acting now? It says, I think he's interim, I believe.
No,
He's
I-
waiting confirmation.
No, I don't think there's a confirmation. I think he's just since
I think
it's
he's
a
still
year-
acting.
Yeah,
Can we check on that before we send it off?
okay.
His title.
We just got a letter from him today, didn't we?
This is acting.
Yeah, yeah.
I know what it says.
Oh, okay.
I'm questioning whether
It's
we
correct.
have, yes.
We can verify that.
We got a letter today from Mr. Ruskowski, so we should just look on that letter to see. I know Ms. Gonzalez had it, so I gave it to her. Okay, so all in favor of, we have a first and a second, and we discussed all in favor of sending this letter to the PET?
Madam President,
Oh, yes.
do we need to adjust that
How is that?
by saying that we've got to make sure that
Oh,
it's,
okay.
that it's,
I will start over. Then
Okay.
I will take off that first motion, and we will do a new motion. I will entertain a motion to approve the letter to Public Education Department regarding SEG funding, making sure that it is either Secretary Ruskowski or Acting Secretary Ruskowski.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Tallman.
and I'll second.
And Mr. Jaramillo, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so the letter will be sent.
Madam President, if I may, it is Secretary Designate
Oh,
is
okay.
the title.
Oh, okay, there you
So
go.
we will get that correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good catch.
Uh-huh. And then we have one more item
Yes.
there.
So I'd like to report on a employee payroll verification that was conducted in September. And so in the first part of September, for 4 days, over 30 employees from finance, purchasing, and the executive cabinet went to school and support sites to verify the employees that were scheduled to be paid on the September 15th payroll. And we took lists and we asked for picture IDs, and we had them sign next to their name on the list. And then those that weren't present, we verified the reason for their absence, and then asked them to come to the finance office by September 30th to verify their employment for their payroll status. And so I'd like to, I'm happy to report that we did not find any ghost employees, and we verified over 3,200 employees. And so that was a very successful audit.
Okay, well, thank you for doing that. I think it was needed
Great.
just
Thank
to
you.
do the verification. Does anybody have any questions on this or comments? Yes, Mr. Castro?
Madam President, was this time the ghost employee thing because of Halloween? Is that?
Right, yeah, it just happened to coincide with that. So.
Yeah, it's perfect.
So, right.
Okay.
Good timing. So.
Okay, all right, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Ellison. That takes us on to operations, and that's.
Madam President, members of the board, in your packet, the first item we have is our construction projects update. And I just have to let you know, it is mislabeled as a report. This isn't the big report, this is just the update in your packet. But we will stand for questions with that, and Ms. Gloria Martinez is here if you have any questions for me or her.
Okay, everybody saw the report on their packet, and what's the timeline? I only have one question. What is the timeline for Las Cruces High now? February. Is it February, or did I miss that?
Yeah.
February of next year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we still have several different projects going on, parking lot, the main gym, Building M, which is the vocational building, and then the music building, they're still ongoing.
Okay, but your final date will be February?
February, yes.
Of 18. Is the cafeteria done?
Yeah, the cafeteria's opened and
Oh.
they're already using it.
Oh, we need a tour.
Let me know.
Yeah,
We're
we need a
anytime,
tour.
we're ready.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. We need to
I would
come
like
and
to
see
go
it.
visit
I'd like to go see it.
Great.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Okay.
All righty, Madam President, members of the board, my next item is the water quality update, and I'm gonna ask Bobby Stout to come join me for a second. Just to give you a little bit of information, so we've had some discussion this fall about looking at measuring heavy metals in our waters at our schools, and so throughout our discussions that we've had, one of the things I just want to remind everyone of is that, so the city tests our water coming into the schools, but we did get some information that the city does some random sampling within schools as well and within buildings, just to kind of check water quality. So the project that we visited with you about, we do have the results on, and so we went to Desert Hills and we did 25 samplings from different areas, and we have a map if you'd like to see that, but we have some really exciting news. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Stout. We're just going to kind of briefly explain the report to you so you can understand that, and then we'll stand for questions
Good.
after.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Deputy Superintendent Hawkes. Thank you. In your packet, as explained, you have the results of our testing from Hall Environmental out of Albuquerque. They do this statewide, and it's quite a common occurrence for them in public utilities, such as us. So if you have any questions, I'm ready to shoot.
Well, it's hard to read these results. Maybe you could just explain one of them.
You bet. Well, I'm very fortunate because this is my background. This is my degree.
There you go.
So I can certainly help. Basically, if you can take number one, for example, it says number one is the nurse sink at the top. We tested, the test was for specifically heavy metals, copper and lead, because that was the request from this certain individual.
Right.
The results of that test, copper, if you read to the right, it says 0.070, so 70 thousandths milligrams per liter, which equates to, in the EPA standard, basically 20 times below the legal allowable limit set forth by the EPA.
And where does it say 20 times below?
Well, it does not say.
What's PKQL then? Is that where?
Okay, so in that column, wait, don't move the screen there, Slick. In PQL is an acronym dealing with the instrument that's used, and the data in the values below that. There's the first data, if you read copper and you go 70 thousandths, then the next line over is 50 10 thousandths. That is the set limit on that microscope, or it's probably not even a microscope, it's probably an electron microscope, that determines the amount of copper in that sample.
Okay.
That's the value that it will read. Our test result was 70 thousandths. That microscope that's used will read down to 50
I see.
thousandths
Okay.
milligrams per liter.
All right. And then in lead, that's the no lead detected.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. That's correct. That acronym ND stands for none detected.
And Mr.
Go ahead.
Mr. Stout, so what is the accepted level? I was trying to find that here.
And it's not stated, and me as well. So I called the lab and said, what are the acceptable limits set forth by the EPA?
Right.
So with copper, let me get this right, because I don't want to lie to y'all.
I have it right here.
You've got it? Thank you.
So copper is 1.3 milligrams per liter.
Okay.
And then lead is 0.015 milligrams per liter. And that's
That would have been, yeah, that would have been easier to read.
Yeah. It's just like, you know, when you get a blood test, it tells you if it first of all, it highlights that it's high or low, and then it tells you
Yeah, I
it
didn't
has to be
understand it.
between these two. So that's what I was looking for here on these reports.
Yes, ma'am, myself as well. And when
Uh-huh.
I read the report, it was inconclusive to me, so I made a phone call back to the
Okay.
folks that we
All
wrote
right.
a PO to.
Okay.
Oh,
To
so then
explain it.
That's your area of expertise and not mine.
That's one of them. Thank you.
So, Madam President, if I just may say, a lot of information here.
Right.
The gist of the entire report is all of our samples were below well below EPA standards at our school.
Okay.
And so we'll have a discussion as staff as to kind of what might be some next steps moving forward and working maybe with New Mexico State University. We've had some discussions, but great learning experience, and it was great to get this information.
It seems like the possible next step, because Desert Hills is a newer school, is perhaps going to an older school, and I don't know which one that would be in our district.
Honestly, older inner city?
Yes.
You bet. I've got a couple of names that we could pick on, but it,
Okay, yeah.
you bet.
Okay, so
And,
maybe that could be the potential next step.
Madam President?
Yes.
Are we gonna make sure that we get this information out, or to the, at least the person that, that is, was
Requested it.
inquiring about it?
Yes,
Madam
sir, by all
President-
means.
All right, thank you.
Okay, did you have another question, Ms. Thomas?
I did have a question in regards to cost. What was the cost on this particular test?
$1,200.
Okay. Not cheap, but hopefully worthwhile.
Yes, ma'am, correct. If we did it district-wide,
Mm-hmm.
it would be, it'd add up to a lot of money.
Yes.
And as Matt, my assistant director, and I went through Desert Hills and did this, we just scraped the surface. 25 samples is it's
Very
just a
little.
drop in the bucket to what you could take samples from for domestic water.
Right. All right. Did you have a question, Mr. Frank?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for doing this. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am, you bet.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stout. Madam President, members of the board, my next item is Community Schools Update, and for that we have Mr. Dave Greenberg and Ms. Mary Parsanchez to share some information and updates about our community schools.
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Deputy Superintendent, we're so grateful to have this opportunity to update you all on some really exciting things that are happening over at Lynn Middle School as it transforms into the district's first community school. We're going to go quickly over some of the slides in here because we also have an update planned at the joint city council school district meeting next week, and so we might zoom through a few of these, and we have a lot to talk about. So as we remember, we cut the ribbon on Lynn Middle School as the first community school in January of this past year, and since then, we have been very, very busy. So community schools, as we know, directly tackle those barriers to learning that we talked about earlier in one of our previous conversations, and directly deal with those impacts of poverty that we know are undermining the success of a lot of our students. And they do so by taking on a collective vision of success. So they directly look at the impacts, they directly hear the voices of our families, of our students, of our staff members, and of our broader community. And in order to do that, the first step of a transformation into a community school is launching a deep needs and assets assessment. And so that's what we've been working on at Lynn over the past several months. And we've taken it upon ourselves to engage 75 to 100% of our staff, our families, our students, and our community in this process. And the reason it's so important to go deep with this process is because community schools isn't just a reform. It's not just where we're slapping a bunch of programs on a school. It's about transformation. And that really is about empowering all of these stakeholder groups with making change themselves from the inside. And so it's so critical to have their voice and have them engaged in this process. And so one way we've initiated that is by surveying over 600, and now in fact I believe we're up to 800 of our students, our staff, and our families. And we have some of the initial survey results here, but we're not going to go through them in detail. We've talked about them a little bit, and we're going to talk about them next week as well. But we really want to touch on something we've been up to the past month, which is going deeper. Now that we have some initial survey results from our staff, our students, and our families, we've embarked on doing focus groups and interviews with those groups. And so, Mary, I'm going to turn it over to Mary to talk a little bit about that process.
Yes. Hi, good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Deputy. So yes, on October 12th, and I want to just add too that the essence of ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, is stakeholder voice. And so that includes these stakeholders that we're talking about, the students, the parents, the staff, and the business community, and others surrounding the school. So this is a grassroots effort to involve the stakeholders. And we have, using PLC time, we have done interviews and focus groups with staff where we have gone deeper into having them discuss, like discipline is a very highly charged and can be interpreted a million different ways, whether, whose point of view. And so we asked specific questions, and teachers and other staff used, what is that?
Poll Everywhere.
Oh, Poll Everywhere. So they were able to remain anonymous. We were able to get much more information. And when we asked more questions about exactly what about discipline, what is going well with discipline, what isn't going well, where are the trouble spots, so that we can have a great understanding of what the problem is. So we did the same thing with staff. Dave, it was pretty brilliant, really, Dave. I'll just go ahead and say that. He developed these focus groups that staff had with students based on what students said to ask them, what do you mean when you say this? And we were very careful with them not to lead students with answers, but just to listen, to just keep asking them questions about what is it that you meant when you said this. And they all responded back, and they really gave us great feedback that they couldn't believe how engaged the students were, which made us realize that we did in fact capture what was important to them, but we did get much more information about what it means and how do we go about trying to strategically plan to solve it. Okay.
And we wanted to show you when we had these focus groups with our students that Mary's talking about, where we dug deeper into the priorities that they expressed for their community school. We started with a video that the students actually made, and it's just very brief, so we just wanted to show it now.
60 seconds.
So that led right into conversations that the staff led with every student in the school in focus groups to go deeper into what they said on these surveys, and also to let them know what they said and give them the report. And then we also did a similar process with families during parent-teacher conferences. We had one-on-one interviews with families, and we did what we called cookie chats, where the Family and Consumer Science staff made cookies, and we had cookies with parents and just went deeper with them into what their feedback was with the surveys. So we want to appreciate all the staff at Lynn for just really embracing this model. Special shout out to Maria Perez, who's the Cougar Vision teacher, for supporting her students in making that video. And with that, we'd like to just sort of breeze through. We all know that there are a lot of really exciting programs going on at Lynn right now, a lot of incredible partnerships. We're going to touch on that more next week at the joint city school board work session. So we don't need to necessarily get into that in detail, but we did want to touch on one exciting development in the broader community school movement.
Right. So yesterday, the City Council did pass a resolution about spreading community schools and being our partners in that work, which is really exciting and thrilling for us. We've worked hard for that, and they also, Dave gave them a joint powers agreement that the Albuquerque-Bernalillo County Partnership used, and they're interested in working on a joint powers agreement with us. And I think we're more comfortable with MOUs, which are memorandums of understanding. And our understanding of that process is that MOUs are used internally for like one organization, and when you are discussing things with one another in one institution. When you start talking from institution to institution, like the schools to the city, a joint powers agreement would make it to where you as a board and the council as a council could elect a representative that could speak and report back, and it would be a little bit more agile to where to get anything done. You don't have to wait for a scheduled school board meeting and then have a board vote. So it just makes more sense in some of the day-to-day grind, you know, and being flexible and able to respond in a more timely, yes, thank you. Did you want to add in? Did you have any questions about a joint powers agreement? I know that sounds like, you know, international treaty or whatever, but it is basically just developing a memorandum of understanding, but from us and with them. Yes, two entities. So we will be talking about that, and hopefully we can get this hammered out, and then we can work together to fund and to spread, which is really what our hope is in the spring.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we have a copy of that Bernalillo Albuquerque City of Public Schools in our packet so that you can read it, and then if you have any questions or comments to make for the city, our joint city meeting, that will be good. Come prepared, okay? Any questions or comments for community schools?
No questions, just a comment, if I may. Yeah, I think you guys are doing a fabulous job. I know there's been a lot of obstacles in the way, and so.
What obstacles? Never.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'd like to say the same thing as Terry, Madam President. Kudos, you've doing a great job, and I think this is something it'll be something that can be emulated by other school districts.
I hope so. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. And okay, well, we appreciate your work, and we'll work on this joint powers. You should have seen their faces when I brought it up at that meeting. It was, what? Okay, so thank you.
Thanks.
Now we move on to equity, innovation, and social justice with Dr. Lozano.
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Hawkes. I want to present Mr. Andres Armijo, who is going to provide with, it's been a long day, I'm sorry. He's going to provide you with our monthly ethnic studies and restorative justice updates for this month. So go ahead, sorry.
It's okay. Okay.
All right, Madam President, members of the board, Deputy Superintendent Hawkes, I have a couple updates to share with you in regards to the restorative justice and ethnic studies movements that we're doing here in the initiatives for the district. I want to briefly just summarize what happened with the restorative justice first. We had our first restorative justice task force meeting, which 2 of our board members did show up. Thank you very much, Mr. Ed Frank and Mr. Jaramillo, for your input and feedback at the meetings. It was definitely crucial for our district. We also had representatives from the pilot schools, our principals, educators, EAs. We invited custodians, ancillary staff, district reps, parents, and students to the task force, and we'll continue to do so for every single event. We also had our central office administration and our community education partnership organizations such as NEA and NMSU. So the first Restorative Justice Task Force meeting was held on October 10th at the Teaching and Learning Center. The task force was excited to have the presence of 2 Board of Education members, sorry, there was a typo in that, Ed Frank and Ray Jaramillo. Both board members were highly involved in the dialogue in regards to the infusion of the restorative practices in our schools. We kicked off this task force meeting with a brief explanation and presentation of what restorative justice is in summary, and why it's needed in our schools. Pilot programs then shared out both successes and struggles that they're having right now in the schools, as that's our goal for the development and the revision of the foundational draft. So every person on the task force was afforded opportunity to share. This first meeting was held more of a forum style, so that way we could get everybody's voice out there. So then our next step is we took a team of representatives, 14 of us total, went to Arlington, Texas, and we went to this impressive restorative justice conference held by Tex RP. And we went to pretty much every breakout session. We split up into a lot of different groups, and the breakout sessions then went forward into different aspects. So I went with questions as to what I needed, and so did others in the pilot program. So we look at bringing that back to the task force and sharing it at the next meeting, which is November 13th from 4 to 6 p.m. And so the last part is that we developed a task force page for both ethnic studies and restorative justice. So everybody was invited that was in the group emails, and this is our interactive working page that will be uploading documents, presentations, as well as any further information. Any questions on restorative justice before I go into ethnic?
Board members, do we have any questions?
Oh yes, and we want to thank Title II for donating money so we could go to this conference, because as we know, this isn't yet in budget.
You said it was run by who?
This was a group called Tex RP for Restorative Practices. So yes, it was many school districts across the state of Texas. There was another one from Alaska. Multiple states went to this conference, and we were just getting ideas of how it's been rolled out.
Okay.
Madam President, I have one question.
Sure.
Can you tell me about the workplace thing?
Yeah, I can come work with you independently. So that's, yeah, So
I just didn't understand. I mean, I got your email, and thank you for that. But I just don't understand what
So what I'll do is at the next task force meeting that we have, I'll go ahead and go over the workplace entirely for everybody on the task force.
Perfect.
I wish I could remember my password now. But
Yes, we're in the new age. Yes.
Go on.
It's on my phone, so.
All right. Okay, so if there's no further questions for restorative justice, I'll move into ethnic studies. We did have our second LCPS Ethnic Studies Task Force meeting held on October 30th here in the boardroom. We had to change locations last minute. And we held it on a Monday night because Tuesday night was Halloween. So we went ahead and changed that just for that. But we're going to try and hold the last Tuesday of every month from here on out. And by the way, on those task force pages, we are scheduled through the remainder of the year. Through June, so we have already done that. So this meeting consisted of many different professionals as well. Last time I listed all the organizations that attended the initial ethnic studies meeting. This one actually had more people that didn't get to come to the prior one, so that's really good. We also live stream all these events on the task force pages for people who can attend. So one of the main topics was the definition of ethnic studies and what it means for our district and our community here in total. So we really want to spearhead a mission and vision statement for this Ethnic Studies Task Force so we can move forward into the next steps for it. Another exciting announcement that went public at this meeting was that NMSU has approved and initiated an ethnic studies course for graduate level at NMSU in the College of Arts and Sciences. So what we're planning right now with NMSU is we're going to try and recruit teachers to go through this cohort and learn how to infuse the ethnic studies in our curriculum, K through 12, as well as high school content level. So that way we can get ideas out there and start integrating within our task force as well. So that's a very cool initiative. They're starting with the grad level with focus to go backwards from grad level to bachelor level. So that's going to be awesome. Oh, and that starts, by the way, in January of 2018. So it's like right now.
Very good.
Okay, so, and then of course the web page was developed for that, and I'll work with you guys on that as well at the next task force meeting if needed as well. Any questions for ethnic studies?
Anyone have any questions or comments?
No questions.
I wanted to thank you for meeting with that author that, and I don't remember the book, but it's on immigrant struggle.
Yes, yeah. So yes, I did meet with an author. He came from Philadelphia and met with me in my office and discussed the infusion of a curriculum for Latino studies for an immigrant that passed across the border with hard struggles, hardships, and was placed into foster care, shipped off to another state. It's really just a personal story of that happening to that teenager, and now she's in college. So she made it through the struggles, but it's really, I'm going to share it with the task force as well and NMSU for maybe their grad level studies.
Okay. Thank you for all the work you're doing on this. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the third item that we have or did you want to introduce this? Or okay, sorry, Chief. We have a new announcement tonight for a new initiative set forth by our division and the schools called the Alliance of United Cultures. So I'm going to invite the group that I brought with me today, Miss Rachel Polk, our assistant principal at Desert Hills Elementary. I also have a parent representative from this alliance, as well as our NMSU partner, and as well as a tutor that we've done. So I'll go over a brief explanation of it, and then I'm going to let each one of them, I've said 2 to 3 minutes, for each one to give an experience of what they've been through thus far. So this alliance, it's parents and LCPS staff and community members that requested support for students who are English learners and immigrant students. Specifically, a group of parents whose students are newcomers to our country, who speak either English or who speak neither English or Spanish, have convened and formed a parent support group. The goal of this group is to collaborate with school and district personnel to find innovative approaches to address linguistic and cultural needs of their children. The languages that are represented in the parent support group as of today that have been identified are Arabic, Mandarin Chinese, Vietnamese, Tagalog, I struggle with that pronunciation, and the name of the support group is the Alliance of United Cultures. So it is going to be spearheaded out of Desert Hills Elementary. You can kind of compare this to some of the works that we're actually doing with the immigrant welcome centers and our foreign welcome centers in the high schools. So I'm going to let them speak about it. We'll start off with Miss Rachel Polk.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Deputy Superintendent Mr. Hawkes. The Alliance of United Cultures was created from necessity. We had a little first grade student who needed to communicate her needs, and there was no adult in the building who was able to communicate with her. Her actions inspired staff, parents, and communities to come together and to meet and to see how we can support our students who speak neither English nor Spanish. And we've it's evolved into 2 specific missions. The first, to increase consistent supports for our students who are newly immigrated to the United States. And secondly, to provide cultural education opportunities for staff and students in the schools. And we've made progress in both of these areas. We have a tutor, and working with Mr. Armijo has really helped a lot. We have Mr. Hornung, who's tutoring in Mandarin. We have an Arabic tutor who is coming in. Shortly, we have volunteers, 2 parent volunteers who have come into the school to help translate and tutor our Arabic-speaking students. We have had Ms. Raja Shindi from the Muslim Student Affairs at NMSU do a presentation for our staff. And we are on Arabic culture, and we are working with students to present presentations that they are putting together with their families. We have our first student presentation tomorrow. One of our students will be presenting on the holiday Diwali, a first grade student. And so I'm very excited about that. Our next meeting will be at Desert Hills on December 14th at 6:00 p.m. We've had some difficulty really getting parents into the school right after school at 2:45, so we're going to try to do an evening meeting, so hopefully more families can attend. At that meeting, we are hoping to showcase more student and family presentations. Many families are very excited and looking forward to creating a presentation with their students to teach about their home countries and their cultures. And we hope to have food. And we hope that some or all of you can attend as well.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Christopher Hornung. I am a tutor for English language learners with the Alliance of United Cultures, specifically for Chinese students. I go between 4 schools 5 days a week and tutor students from kinder through 4th grade. I tutor within the classroom setting and conduct group student pullouts as well. As a tutor, I do not discourage the first language of the student. Rather, I encourage it and the use of it when tutoring. Given my experience of Mandarin as a second language and using it, I find it emphasizes the bridging of images in the learner's head, which may not be so apparent to the observer. With the Chinese language, the learning is twofold, written and auditory. And the written is based off of a pictographic learning model. Images, as a result, are the key to bridging gaps between the languages. Between the teachers and I, we encourage interaction to tackle both individual problem solving to one-on-one work. The Chinese education culture, being rooted deeply in a pedagogy style structure, means that even with Chinese classmates paired together speaking their own language, the interaction is not self-defeating. Instead, they reinforce one another in their learning, in part due to their cultural predisposition to collective group learning. What we cannot forget, however, is that the needs of the individual also must be emphasized for the American learning structure, which can be highly individualistic at times. So alternating between group and individual learning sharpens both skills. Pull-out language sessions are determined based on what I see and what the teachers require me to support. In some instances, they are the same, and in others, the students have vocalized their concerns and their needs. Sometimes this means that I will be with the student in class, translating and confirming their understanding. My overall goal is to have the students be successful in the transition between these two worlds. We want our students to feel welcome in this new learning environment. I've seen examples of this already in their classmates, with just basic interactions, even if they don't completely understand one another. The students seem to be watching out for their new classmates in this case with classroom activities. One way we could encourage more interaction with the students and the classmates is to emphasize the teaching capacity inherent in all children, even if it's just helping or encouraging. One day they will be teaching each other words from each other's languages and sharing their cultures. I may be biased, but I think this is a very valuable program to have in our docket. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horner.
Good evening. My name is Raja Shindi. I'm representing the Muslim Student Association at New Mexico State University. I'm also an educator. I teach at the university level, college and community college, and also representing my community, the Muslim community here in Las Cruces. This is Rachel mentioned, we kind of were discussing this initiative. I was very excited and happy to be a part of it because it's important. We see the student struggle and the family struggle when they transition. So at the Muslim Student Association, we provide resources to our students and their families, of course at the university level, but also they do have kids and children at school, and we attend, most of the time we attend some meeting, and that's how I met with Rachel, and then she remember that meeting, and then he sent me an email, and when you follow up after that. So I really do appreciate this initiative, myself and my community, and we provide the resource. We're the resource. So we provided some books to the Desert Hill Elementary School. So as students, they can walk into the library, find the books in their language. So that adds confidence to themselves, and also tutors, which is we try to filter out, try to select the best tutors that's fluent in the both languages, and they can communicate and transition and help the teacher and support, also work with the teacher to support the student. So pretty much we're the resource. I gave a presentation at the I think about 2 weeks ago or so at the Desert Hill Elementary School, and to the teachers also, because sometimes it's just knowing the culture, how we communicate. I try to share with them how it's the education system back home and the transition to that, and it just, again, knowing some simple words, writing their names in Arabic and in English, these basic things, but every simple thing will really help the children. So I just want to really thank whoever, the Rachel and LCPS to start this initiative, and we were here to support in any way. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your part in it.
Madam President, if I may, I really do want to thank.
There's one more person.
There's one more? Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I am here as a parent. My son is a student at Desert Hills Elementary. And as a parent, I am here to just briefly tell my own story or experience that is probably highlighting the importance of this initiative. So we came here 2 years ago. I am a parent of a 10th grader at Arrowhead, and my 4th grader is at Desert Hills this year. When we first came, my son could say 2 English words, yes and no. As a family, I have a good command of English. My daughter as well. He didn't. So when he joined school, he also has this, his receptive language was okay because he could listen to us, he heard us at home. He couldn't express himself, and he always gave the impression that he understands it all. So anyone who would talk to him would think he's okay with the language. There was no, he was, of course, identified as a second language learner, but there is no, the bilingual program is only English-Spanish. So no one was there to translate in Arabic. He acquired the language. Now he is, 2 years later, he expresses himself very well. He is a very good communicator, but still he is struggling with his academics. This struggle, especially in the very beginning, affected his behavior, his academic development, of course. He was very frustrated that no one understands him. He couldn't tell. He couldn't understand his peers when they were playing together or say what is going on, so sometimes he would be aggressive, or he would say things or do things that adults do not understand and interpret it as disobedience or defiance. And his frustration went so far that he was finally in depression. That is my own diagnosis for him. And he refused completely to go to school. He wouldn't get up in the morning, he wouldn't go to school. In addition to this problem, and this is a general thing, but in addition to this, my son also has a very special situation. He has a diagnosis of ADHD, and then he also was diagnosed with auditory sensory processing disorder. Both conditions are usually comorbid, and they are mostly associated with other difficulties like learning disabilities or speech problems. My son does have a speech problem that has been there with him since he was 3 years old, since he started. I am a neurologist and neuropsychiatrist, so I am aware of my son's problem. I communicated this with the school. I tried to get help, but the assessment was done in English. So the opinion was that this is probably, his difficulties are probably because he is a second language learner. And I did say that, no, this is not the case. He cannot even pronounce Arabic words, but there was not a specialist who is Arabic speaker. So this was missed. Again, I fought, I emailed, I insisted that he would be further assessed. And again, the assessment, there was no one who could speak Arabic or know our culture to be able to actually judge whether his problems are due to his language acquisition or because he does have a problem. Today was the first time I did receive a SAT packet from Desert Hills School. Thank you very much. And my son did need this SAT packet since day one, since we came here, but it was never acknowledged. Our problems were never acknowledged just because our language is not known. So, having said this, I appreciate so much, and I'm very proud to be part of this initiative that is taking place now. Hopefully, it will help many other students. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much for that presentation.
Madam President, if I may, I really do want to thank Ms. Polk for taking the lead in really solving an issue that we've had for years in our district. I do want to state that Title III funding was before they came up with the solution at their own school. We had allocated funding for tutors, so we are using Title III funding as outlined in our application that you guys approved, I believe, in May, to get tutors and to really emphasize in looking at these students whose first language is not Spanish, but that are newcomers to our country and that need that extra support too. I know some of the questions that I've received from schools is why not Spanish also, and we also do have a parent bilingual advisory group, and the likelihood of all of our schools, well, it's a fact that in each one of our schools we do have somebody that's Spanish speaking that could communicate with parents, whereas parents that come from different countries that we don't have a lot of, there's the possibility is lower, right, of somebody speaking the language. So I really do want to commend the parents, and also there's been a few teachers in the school that have really stepped up, and Andres, he's been really supportive, and just like Dr. Ewing always tells us, the role of central office is to support. So just really happy to see that Ms. Polk and that school really took the initiative to find a solution to an issue that they've had, and now we're hoping to expand it to other schools. So thank you guys for the work you've done.
Yes, it's very commendable.
Madam President, if I may.
Nobody has any questions or comments? Okay, go ahead.
Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Hawkins, if I may. Now I want to, staying on the same topic, give you, if I could invite Dr. Han, our Executive Director of Bilingual and Migrant Education Programs. What we wanted to do is provide you with a quick update, hopefully it's quick, on our bilingual and English language programs here in our district. So starting, can I control this? So starting off, I wanted to give you an idea of how many students we've identified as English learners. So this 5-year English learner trend data represents the number of students that were identified as English learners. Just real quickly, how do we know if students are English learners? We have a process that's used nationwide where when any student registers at our school, they're given what was formerly known as a home language survey. It's now called the language usage form. Basically, it asks parents questions. Is a language spoken at home? has the student been exposed to another language other than English at the home? And based on the answers the parents give us, we have an assessment that's by the WIDA consortium, and we assess students on English proficiency. So that's how we identify English learners. So this year, if you could see, the number of students identified, this is the latest data we have, are 3,130 in comparison to last year, which was 2,791. So one might ask, do we have a lot of new students in our district now because our overall population is pretty much static? Difference is that we have a new home language survey, like I mentioned, which has more questions, so therefore we're identifying more students. But this leads me to my next graph, which outlines the proficiency levels of our students. So when students are identified as English learners, once we identify them, we must provide supplemental support for them. So we have to, as a school district, provide that specialized support in acquiring the English language. To measure that, we have to assess the student each year with an assessment called the Access, which was created by the WIDA consortium. And this assessment is an assessment that is really tied to our Title III funding. So in order for us to receive Title III funding, we must assess students to measure their English proficiency. We want to make sure that our district is spending Title III funding appropriately. So this year in early January, in 2016, last school year, in early January, we received notification that the assessment was changing. The cut scores were being changed. We were told that the assessment was to align more with Common Core. So if you look at the first school year, 14-15, 19.4% of our students were proficient. That means that they attained a 5.0 or higher, so we don't consider them English learners. Now we have to make sure that we keep up with them and follow them throughout their educational experience. In 15-16, 2,797, and last school year, which is the 16-17, out of 2,636 students, only 1.8 were proficient. That means about 49 students. So this was a trend all across our state. There were some districts actually that had 0 kids become proficient. So now, with the combination of a new home language survey and now the majority of our students not becoming proficient, that's why the number of English learners is higher this year. And I do anticipate that number to go higher. So just wanted to provide you with some background before we get to how we're addressing the need in our district. The next slide we have is a term that's widely used within with the English learner world, I guess, the community, is long-term English learners. So what are long-term English learners? These are students that have been at our schools for more than 5 consecutive years. They're not new to the country. They've been with us for more than 5 years, yet they have not gained that English proficiency. Again, this is based on that test that I just mentioned earlier. So an interesting fact is that 65 of our English learners in middle and high school are considered long-term English learners. So why is this important? Because when we think of English learners, we always tend to think of newcomers, right? Students that just arrived from a different country that have 0 English. So the instructional approach for those students is very different for students that have been here for 6-7 years, where they have the social skills to communicate with their peers, with the teacher, and oftentimes we hear principals or teachers, even us, I've done it before, where we say, they know English already, they just aren't trying hard enough, right? Where research tells us that students learn first the social and then the academic. Of course, our jobs as educators is to educate our students and for them to be prepared for college or career, right? So just wanted to provide you with that interesting fact. So now I'll turn it over to Dr. Han, who is going to briefly go over some of the approaches and initiatives that we have in our district to address the need that we have to support this population.
Thank you, Dr. Lozano. One thing I wanted to point out about the higher numbers of English learners is that, which is actually a good thing, is that we've partnered with the Division of Assessment and Technology and with the Division of Academics to better identify our students. And so we worked on the assessment side and the reporting side to identify more of our students, which may have been missed in the past. So that's also accounts for the higher number of English learners this year, which is actually a good thing because more students are going to get the support that they need. So one major initiative that our department is undertaking is exciting because it's finally stating to our schools and our communities that the education of English learners is everyone's responsibility. It's not just a bilingual teacher's responsibility or an English language development teacher's responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility. It's also exciting because it's comprehensive. It will be instituted in all schools in kindergarten through 12th grade. And it's also we've built in sustainability as well. It's not just a one-shot deal. It's a multi-year implementation plan to build capacity at the school sites to continue the implementation long after this initial year. In addition, it's multi-departmental and multi-divisional in the sense that we're partnering with the academic division to make sure that we're joining forces and joining funding sources as well to help to make sure this is in place. So just very briefly, the SIOP model is the Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol. It is a framework and a way to help teachers utilize strategies to shelter content in all areas: math, social studies, science, language arts, and math. So it is not a new program. It is a purposeful system by which to deliver sheltered instruction. So the SIOP model has 8 major components, and you see those listed in this pyramid structure here. And just one thing I wanted to point out is that in the first phase, our content and specialists in the Division of Academics will be trained first so that they can infuse these strategies and components in any professional development that they provide, whether it's in math, language arts, science, social studies. So we wanted to make sure it was comprehensive in that way first. In addition, we are ensuring that our beginning teacher induction program specialists are also using these strategies when they onboard our new teachers to the Las Cruces Public Schools. Some other supports that we have in place to help our English learners focus on our secondary levels, which do have a majority of our long-term English learners. And so we want to provide more training for our educational assistants, providing summer professional development, and aligning our English language development curricula across the grade levels, to develop a cohort whereby we can certify more teachers in being able to teach ELD strategies, and also making sure that our registrars are very proficient in how to work with parents on completing the home language survey or the language usage survey. Am I pointing in the wrong? We are also helping to address English language proficiency. This slide also mentions again the SIOP model. It also emphasizes our international welcome centers, which we have previously reported on, and also our efforts to make sure that students who are not participating in a bilingual education program are also being supported. Another exciting initiative, I don't want to say initiative, but it's a person who has joined our department is Aldo Lopez, and he is our family and community support manager, and he is the mastermind behind the altar de los muertos that you see outside. And his role is really to bridge the the support that we can give to our families of our English learners, especially our Latino families. And he is working in conjunction with our International Welcome Center student advisors in developing community language academies, in making home visits to make sure we're supporting the whole learner with whatever needs they may face, to work with the Institute for Parent Engagement, as well as to develop some of those parenting skills that our parents may benefit from. So we're very excited about that, as well as our plans to help to monitor those students who are reclassified with a 5.0 or higher on the access test, because we don't just want to leave them out in the cold. We want to make sure they're supported throughout their career. And of course, as Mr. Hornung stated earlier, the best way to support a student's proficiency in obtaining English is to build on the assets of that first language, of the native language. And that's so important. And that's why we want to emphasize our bilingual programs, because we want to help make sure we develop the biliteracy and bilingualism of those students. So we are continuing to work in enhancing our dual language model in the elementary schools, as well as exploring a possible pilot project in the middle schools and high schools, so that we can maintain that continuum that we started in K-5 of bilingual education. And then, as always, our department is available to provide professional development at the request of principals and teachers. And with that, I stand for questions.
Okay, very comprehensive report there. Board members, do we have any questions or comments?
I do not have any questions.
Okay. Nobody?
No questions.
Yes, Mr. Castro. Absolutely.
I'm very impressed with what's happening there. But I recall when I first went to school, my first year, and both my parents were from Mexico, immigrants. And the first thing I learned is to go to the bathroom. May I be excused? And I learned that first. That was I started getting the most critical need, at the least.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. Where does that put us? Okay, we are on to board items.
Yes, ma'am. All righty, Madam President, members of the board. So my first item is the bond election item review. So we've been updating you kind of throughout the process. Just to give you a brief recap, we began the process at end of April, early May, by requesting principals and departments submit requests for their schools and departments and divisions on capital outlay needs. And from that, we created a committee through that, and we have gone all the way up until last week with meetings. It has been a lot of hard work. We have an amazing committee. We have 25 appointed individuals and a few extras. So at this time, if I just may take a point of personal privilege and ask our bond committee, who's still here, if they could just please stand so we could recognize you and all your hard work that you've done for us. Which it has been a lot of hard work and a lot of tough decisions. So as I've shared with you, as we began, there was a sheet that was a really big spreadsheet, and we worked through all the requests that we've had in our district, which were way above $200 million of total requests. Our bonding capacity for the February 2018 bond is $50 million. So we had a lot of work. Committees, just an example. So committees, we had 3 committees. They met. They discussed, they took pictures, they took field trips. We came back, we hashed things out, we prioritized around safety and security, and it's just been a tough road, but I'm really proud of the work that the committee has done. So in your packets today is our recommendation, the committee's recommendation to the Board of Education. And so with that, I'm going to ask Ms. Bridget Ziegelhofer to help me go through those and explain those briefly for us, and then we will stand for questions and discussion on them.
I don't think we have it in our packet.
It's not in our packet.
I believe it's in your big packet. It's not in your folders.
So, great.
Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Deputy Superintendent. On your screen right now, just to clarify confusion, That's the one he's referring to. And I'll go ahead and review that with you, but also in your board packet was the list of the projects that unfortunately couldn't come forward for your consideration in this bond. As Mr. Hawkins said, we had way too many requests and not enough funds. Every request is important, and we took the time to give it the review that it deserved. We visited, and as he said, we had many difficult conversations to make sure we brought forward a package to you that took care of the needs that we needed to take care of with the minimal bond money that we would have. As he said, the bond projects were broken. We developed parameters to choose their bond projects. One, the number one priority being bond 2014 project carryover. Any project that was not completed with the 2014 bond dollars had to carry forward to honor what our voters voted for. And so in your chart, you will see that we have that on the top, and I'll go through that. Number two, top priority is safety. Our district, for even the last bond cycle, safety was top priority for everybody on the committee. We want to make sure our kiddos and our staff are safe. Number three is learning environment, and number four, of course, is equity amongst our schools. An additional consideration in our project selection is any school that would rank in the top 100 with PSFA, because with that we get additional funding, which helps relieve the money we use from our bond for the project, because PSFA will match the project at 65%. And the district would only have to pay the 35% remaining of the project. So it's important to point out that in New Mexico, this is how we pay for school project construction and renovations, is through property taxes. And that's why we come forward to our community and ask them to vote on a GO bond. So we will do that again and ask for the $50 million in February 2018. To go through the projects that we are bringing for your consideration, our top category, we labeled them groups, but then we categorized them. So the bond 2014 projects that we need to make sure we take care of is the Lynn Middle School HVAC. That project was on the 2014 bond because it was PSFA ranked, but by the time we were able to get to taking care of the project, the ranking had changed and we lost the matching funds, and we didn't have the extra amount to take care of that. So we are bringing that forward to take care of that project for Lynn Middle School. Oñate High School intercom system replacement needs to be completed. The project was priced higher than what we have the funding for, so we're carrying it forward to make sure we take care of that. Our next column is the Americans with Disabilities Act compliance. We ensure that those needs are taken care of, so we always have some money set aside for Mr. Stout and his maintenance crew to take care of those needs in our schools. Group C is our athletics. Picacho Middle School will get new girls' gym lockers. In our last bond, the boys got new lockers, so to maintain equity, we will purchase new gym lockers for the girls. And Oñate High School has identified a real safety issue with their gym bleachers. We were told students and staff are having to pull those out and push them back in. We don't want kiddos getting hurt, so we are going to replace those gym bleachers. The Field of Dreams baseball complex, the final project is to install lighting on the field. This will help schedule games in the evening so we don't have to pull kids out of class early to play games in the daylight. Camino Real Middle School will receive a new basketball court. Our next column is classrooms, multi-purpose centers, and kitchens. Fair Acres Elementary, we haven't seen any growth in student enrollment, but we do have need for additional classrooms. We want to get kids out of portables. So Fair Acres Elementary has a huge population. We're going to give them a new classroom wing. We're going to build them a new multi-purpose center, kitchen, and we're going to take their old multi-purpose center and create new additional instructional space for them. Hillrise Elementary, again, will also get a new multi-purpose room because they have a large population with a new kitchen. We will remodel their existing multi-purpose room for additional instructional space. Desert Hills Elementary, I would like to point out with the asterisk, is identified as a PSFA ranked school. So we want to take advantage of that and get that project done while the funding is given to us. So they will receive a new multi-purpose room as well with a new kitchen, and we will remodel that space to create additional instructional space. In many discussions we have, the Board of Education has let us know that they feel strongly about creating energy efficient solutions. So we have made a commitment to incorporate some of those projects in our bond projects. So we have set aside some money to do that, as well investigate those clean energy solutions. We've identified a need to update critical data, phone, and network infrastructure. This is very important. Most people don't see it, but it's our data centers and the equipment that allows our kids and our teachers to use the networks. So we have to make sure we take care of that. LCPS TV equipment needs some updating and support so that we can continue to offer those student learning experiences and broadcasting our important meetings to our community. Column G is playground equipment and shade structures. This is very important. We want our little kids out there playing on safe equipment that is age appropriate. So we have listed those. Central Elementary, Hermosa Heights, and Sonoma will receive some playground equipment. Playground shade structures are very important as well to provide some shade over our play structures so they're not hot during the summer, and that would be Jornada, Loma Heights, Mesilla Park, Tombaugh, and Sunrise. Mesilla Park Elementary and Loma Heights will also receive some grade appropriate swing sets. And with any bond, you want to make sure that you have some contingency funds identified, because what we estimate as the cost now is very different 4 years from now. So we've identified some funds for contingency. Also in the need that we have to purchase some property, we have put those funds aside. Valley View Elementary will receive a new roof. And as I talked about in the beginning of my presentation, safety is #1 priority all the time. So we have identified some safety projects that we feel need to get completed. And MacArthur Elementary is identified as a PSFA ranked school. So we're going to take the opportunity to redo that the office area, expand it out, redo the nurses area, put in those safety gates, and then that project will include some new office furniture for that school. Security doors. Because we do want our school staff to be able to monitor who comes into our campus and make sure they should be there. And with that, security doors, back in 2014, we did identify some schools that we wanted to put in the buzzers and the cameras. We feel that that's just not functioning efficiently as we want, so we are gonna put security doors at those elementary schools in replace of those projects. And those schools are Central, Cesar Chavez, Desert Hills, Doñana, East Picacho, Highland, Hillrise, and Valley View. Security gates, fencing, and some security lighting. We will give Picacho Middle School, we feel their campus is too open and we need to secure that a little bit for the safety of our students. So we'll install some security fencing and some gates to enclose that campus. And Vista Middle School, we want to enclose in the back and give them some security fencing back there. Mayfield High School, we'll put in some exterior lighting in the southeast parking lot, which is their darkest parking lot, and it's become a safety issue. School furniture, we have identified a need at Mayfield High School, and we need to replace the school student and adult furniture. The district has a furniture replacement cycle, and by adding a high school to the bond, it eases the money needed in that replacement cycle, and we can add in a few more schools. So Mayfield High School will receive new school furniture. Sierra Middle School, we need to replace library furniture, and that includes bookshelves and tables to update their library and bring it back to a safe condition. School renovations and physical plant is the last category I'll touch on. Columbia Elementary, we have identified some major building and roof renovations and repairs that need to be done to that school. We want to do it now before it gets any worse. So we will do major renovations at Columbia Elementary. And Operations Annex, again, another safety issue. We've identified the need to expand some of those facilities and build new facilities. The ladies and gentlemen who are maintaining our schools and feeding our children are working in unsafe, subpar conditions, and we feel it's time to address that. And so at this bond, we will start phase 1 of a phase 2 project and moving our physical plant and operations over to our Las Vegas Operations Annex. So with that, this is our recommendation from the 2018 Bond Advisory Committee. I do just want to point out again that the requests that did not make this list, they're still important. We're looking at them. We've had conversations with Mr. Stout in the physical plant to identify the projects that his team can take care of without taking it to a bond. And we've made a list of things that need to continue to be looked at. Everything was important to us, and we wish we could bring everything forward, but we had to bring a bond package for $50 million to you for your review and consideration. And with that, I stand for questions.
Well, Ms. Dahlman and I know this list pretty intimately, board members.
Too intimately.
Do you have any questions or comments of the items on this list? This to-do list?
The to-do list.
Yes, Mr.
Just say
Castro.
one, Madam President. Is our bond rating changed any? Is it the same? What is it?
So that is a very in-depth conversation that I don't have all the information if Mr. Hawkins does. If not, we do have Mr. Paul Cassidy coming to your next meeting to give a thorough presentation about this for you.
Madam President, Mr. Castro, I believe, Ed, that our bond rating stayed the same. Is that correct?
It stayed the same, correct. It's at a 2, double A, 3, minus rating.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I just have a quick question. The security doors that you mentioned that they're replacing, what is there now? Is it the you get there and the camera's there and they let you in, or is there nothing there?
No, at this point there is nothing there. When you walk in the front doors, usually, I mean, the office can see you, but we feel that's not secure enough. We want them to be able to walk right into the office, and the office verify their intent for being there and their purpose, and then allow them access to the hallways. So they would just kind of cordon off the office so that visitors had to be greeted by the reception.
Yeah, you can walk into some schools and go into any hallway and not stop by the office. Yeah. Anybody else?
I just commend the committee for making these hard choices. It's not easy.
No, it's not.
Thank you.
Seems like it's well thought out and prioritized.
The question is it balanced? That's it. So when you look at it and review it, just let us know if you think it's balanced. Okay?
We do take that into consideration. We want to make sure that we get as much as we can across the school district, as much as we can.
And Madam President, if you clarify, what do you mean by balanced?
Well, that everybody feels like they're getting, a little something, that's going to improve their school, their area, whatever it might be. Whether it's playground or lights or
roof.
Yeah. We have 41 schools, so not everyone gets to be in on this, okay?
Bless you.
The next thing would be to make sure that this passes.
Well, I was informed that we're not really going to vote on it, but if you have any recommendations, yeah.
Bond, yeah.
Yeah.
And I would like to point out, but it's going with the 50 million, we bring forward a bond package with a no tax rate increase for our community.
So then we'll move on to number 2.
In keeping with the 2018 bond election discussion, now is the time where we start looking at the resolution and proclamation for the resolution. And in order to develop that, we need to identify our voting centers. And so I have prepared that and put it in your packet for your review. Just to reiterate, the bond election will be held Tuesday, February 6, 2018, and we will be asking the voters to vote on a 50 million general obligation bonds. Las Cruces Public Schools, we work closely with the Doña Ana Bureau of Elections in running our election, and we do have a total cost of the election at this point at $40,887. This total includes the cost for our voting sites, the staff that run the sites, the publication requirements that go along with running an election, requirements by statute. So we've identified 13 voting convenience centers. Voting convenience centers mean voters can vote at any center in their area. We're no longer doing by precinct, so they can go to any center that we have identified. And that we took into consideration. We looked at our past bonds, looked at what is popular amongst our voters and what is convenient for our voters. We looked at spreading the voting locations throughout our community for easy access and making sure that our general area was covered for all of our voters. So we determined a minimum of 2 voting locations per board district at a minimum. There were some areas where we felt like we needed a few more. So in District 1, we've identified Mayfield High School and Jornada Elementary. In District 1, we identified Brannigan Library as a a central voting location because it's very popular amongst our voters. District 2, we have Las Cruces High School and Tombaugh Elementary, and we've identified Doña Ana Government Center as another central voting location for our voters. District 3, we have Hillrise Elementary and Las Alturas Fire Station. And District 5, I'm missing one up there. It's off the chart. It is off the, District 5, we have Desert Hills Elementary, Sonoma Elementary, and Sunrise. We added a third in District 5 just to make sure we had the geographically available for our voters. So some dates to calendar. Did I go through District 4? No? No? Where am I? I apologize. East Picacho Elementary and Fair Acres Elementary. I apologize. And we do it by district just to show you how geographically we have it spread out for our voters. Some dates to calendar. Those wishing to vote in our February bond election must be duly registered to vote by January 9th, 2018. Our early voting and absentee voting window is January 12th to February 2nd. And of course, our election is February 6th, 2018. If there are no changes, this information will be incorporated into your resolution and proclamation calling for the election and will be brought forward for your review and approval at the November 14 board meeting and will be duly filed at the Bureau of Elections following that approval at that meeting. And with that, I stand for questions.
Board members, do we have any questions on the convenience centers? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Siegel-Kaufler. And we move on to...
Alrighty, Madam President, members of the board, my last item is the first reading of policy ECF, which is energy and water conservation. There's been some changes that we've made to your policies, so just to point those out there in blue, there's some changes under background. And then we added two definitions, sustainable energy, water conservation, and then added a portion under the position statements there. This is the first reading we bring to you for input. This will also be posted on the website for input from the community as well. Super excited about this policy, actually. To update it, it hasn't been updated since 2010, and a lot has changed since then, and I think this hopefully will duly reflect the vision as a board and a district as we move forward, especially looking at our bond. So with that, I stand for questions, and again, this is just the first reading.
Board members, do we have any questions or thoughts on this one?
No, I don't.
I'd just like to see the word solar power probably under sustainable energy, i.e. solar power, as one of the not energy efficient to support any projects further
yes,
on.
Okay. Alrighty, we'll get on that and change that, add that.
Right, and if you think anywhere else, that it's needed anywhere else, that's fine as well. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, so we move on. Going on to old business, I brought in a card, and I need all the board members to sign it. Do you have it, Ms. Gonzalez? Oh, okay, okay. And what I propose is that we thank the students from J. Paul Taylor and Miss Tamara Alexander, the teacher that did this, the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish the first time. And I asked Dr. Ewing if he would provide a little pizza surprise, perhaps. So we just need to sign the letter. Okay. Okay? And then, is there any public input? I don't think so. Nobody hiding anywhere. Okay. So then I don't need to make any comments, and if everyone is okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night, and be sure and vote.